we're talking about how we found Martha. Do you want to share your story?
I will, and I think my story changes. So this is what my story is. I remember it right now.
Okay.
I think that one of the things that I realized actually in conversation with you is that I've been reading Martha for 15 years because she's an O columnist for the Oprah magazine. And I've been subscribed to that since it was born. And my first official sort of realization of Martha and her technique was when I found myself using her exact words and not knowing if I was plagiarizing her or not. Or maybe even channeling her. I'm like, this sounds so much like what I'm talking about. So I started looking for more of her and took a few classes and then ended up in the Martha Beck coach training. And I think the Martha Beck coach training for me was just so freeing because it was the first thing that I went for that wasn't to achieve anything. It was totally just to experience it. Like, it's going to be cool to call myself a Martha Beck certified coach or whatever the title is going to be.
Mhm.
But that's how I found her. And then when I heard her 4 Technologies of Magic TED Talk, I bought the book, Finding Your Way in a Wild New World. And that made me feel like I was a part of something. And it also helped me to understand and put into context what it seemed like my life was going through or was going through at the time, and still is going through in a different way. So that's how Martha and I met, and now we love each other.
Isn't that sweet? Aww.
We've actually never met. Martha doesn't know who I am.
Oh, but she does. You're part of the team. Come on.
She does. You're right. Not in a physical sense, but totally in that presence.
Yeah. That's funny that I don't know why. I'm such a TED Talk junkie, and I didn't even know she had. I had listened to, like, Boyd Barty and such, but I didn't know she had one, so I'm going to look that up now.
Yeah. 4 Technologies of Magic, and she tells her rhinoceros story.
Oh.
And that's the way she tells the story.
That's a must one.
And then, play.
Yeah.
Tell me how you met Martha.
I'm just thinking right now about mine as well. But I totally get what you say when you said that you're wondering if you were like plagiarizing, because it sounded so similar. And I definitely knew I wasn't plagiarizing. Mine was more like I was reading her stuff and I'm like, oh my God, she's saying it the way I think it. Like I couldn't process it, but she's doing it for me. But I definitely don't have a history as long as yours. Let's see here. I guess the way I stumbled upon Martha was I was trying to figure what I wanted to do in terms of my career. And I was kind of trying to, wiggle. Like, I wanted to have a schedule that was flexible enough, but I wanted to do something I loved, something I enjoyed, and I just couldn't put a finger on it, really. And I was talking to my cousin, actually, about it, and she's like, well, be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, ugh. Like, when I heard that word, it didn't sound good to me, but it made me curious enough to kind of just start, searching on Google and whatnot. And I came across a Forbes list of, like, the 5 best books for entrepreneurs. And one of them was the Finding Your Way in a Wild New World by Martha. And so I was like, okay, great. That caught my attention, and so I was going to grab it. But I went to the library first, and they didn't have it. But they had Martha's Finding Your North Star. And so I got that instead, and that's when I really kind of started my, like, process and work with Martha. You know, I didn't know much about her beforehand. I didn't know anything about her, to be honest. And so I started to do a little bit of digging, and I did the exercises in that book. And, you know, through that I realized that, like, what she was doing, you know, what she was working with and her kind of system worked for me. And so that's how I got on the Martha path. And then I feel like finding your way in a wild new world is kind of like the treat at the end, like the goodie bag. I don't know. I just think it was such a fun book. So that's kind of how I'm here too.
Interesting. And now we're taking folks on a journey through the book, which is exciting because we get to re-experience it.
Totally.
And I love books. I love books. So in the introduction, she talks about our rhinoceros cyst and how it's anything that fulfills. I know, it's funny. It's a long word, rhinoceros.
Sounds like a tongue twister. I haven't tried the plural form.
I just wanted to make it longer and more fancy, I guess. Rhinoceros. Yeah.
Sounds better that way, too.
So our rhinoceros is anything that fulfills our life purpose. And then she writes in the introduction that right now we know what our rhinoceros is, but we might not yet know that we know because it's the part of us that clearly sees our right life and our true nature. So what's your rhinoceros story?
Geez, when you put it that way, that sounds way deeper. I think I'm still part of the I don't know, I know. You know, like little by little I'm getting there. When I think about my kind of rhinoceros and what gets me kind of questioning, like, wow, how the hell did I get here? Martha talks about, you know, her change cycle and like those events that kind of create that change. And so I think she said that one is, you know, shock, kind of like, you know, that, oh, I didn't expect this kind of a situation, sometimes very tragic. The other is opportunity. Yay, got a promotion at work, but it's overseas. And the other, what I consider a little less fancy, is just kind of that transition process. And I feel like I fall into that category. It's just been a growth process for me. I feel like it almost started earlier than I had originally thought, you know, especially when I started getting into positive psychology and all of that. I had this inkling that I knew things could be better and they needed to be better, but I didn't know how and in what way. And so all throughout, like, college and my experience volunteering afterwards and just kind of, like, searching within, I was trying to do it, but I felt like I wasn't doing it the right way. And so after I had been in my current romantic relationship for a couple of years, I felt like that was kind of more of, like, the catalyst. It was kind of like I felt like I was kind of getting pulled in different directions, and some of them were being pushed on me. You know, like I questioned how I was acting in a different culture, like my behavior in general, like the type of relationship I was in, all sorts of things. And it got to a point that at one point I was looking at myself in a mirror, and I had always considered myself someone, you know, kind of studying herself, if you would. And this is the first time I, like, acknowledged and recognized, like, I looked at myself in the eyes and I was like, who are you? It was kind of like that was the moment I asked, like, how the hell did I get here? Like, how is it that I can't see myself clearly, like in my own eyes? And so in Martha's book, sometimes I get a little bit confused because it seems like the two questions are simultaneous. And I don't know if I probably asked myself what I should do now, but I felt like the more pressing question at the time was like, oh no, what happened? Like how? Why? And so because this was like a growth process for me, I feel like I almost ignored that for a while until it got to the point where I couldn't ignore it any longer. Like it was too painful. It wasn't what I wanted. And that's when I started addressing the what should I do now. And so my answer to that right now was, I started looking within deeper, and I got help from someone else. That helped me feel like I was doing it the right way. Whether or not that was necessary, I don't know, but that's what I did, and I'm so happy I did.
And it's brave.
Yeah.
It's really brave, honestly. So the pain moved you into action.
Yeah. It's funny because I wouldn't label it like that, like without like reflecting on it that way. I would think, oh, it was my relationship, or oh, it was because I was living abroad, and like things like that. But I think taking away those factors, it still would have happened for me in some way or another through that just kind of like growing out of feeling crappy, growing out of not knowing, growing out of not feeling 100% myself. And so, yeah, that's kind of it, I guess. I guess it was pain.
Mine was more of, I guess, disappointment. I actually took a note when you were talking on the outside versus inside, because that's exactly the same shift that I felt I went through, but in a really, really different kind of way. Because for me, I thought that getting the outside, whatever that was, and checking those boxes off was then going to finally allow me to feel full, rested, peaceful, fulfilled, whole inside. So I was always sort of climbing a ladder and getting to the next thing. And whenever I got to the top, I'm like, oh, no, this isn't it. So then I'd go down and climb another ladder. And then found myself in a total, good problem. Like I have everything that I thought I wanted, and I'm still not happy. What's wrong with it? And lots of transition for me at the time. I mean, like there's this list somewhere, because I'm into psychology too, that there are major changes in your life, right? Like moving, death, divorce. I think I had the first 10. So I went through what I call the dark years, and this really confusing time where I felt like I was in a storm. And we just had some beautiful rainstorms, then thunderstorms, because it's tornado season here in Texas. And there was one night that I was woken by the storm, and it was about 5 in the morning. And it was this really beautiful sort of reflection on, quote, unquote, those dark years. And what I saw is that what I was doing in that time period of my life is literally hunkered down, attempting to move forward in the storm instead of waiting till it passed. So trying to be clear-headed, trying to see past like this blinding rain and heavy winds and hail, And I thought, how crazy was I? How absolutely crazy was I? And now And even thinking of saying this out loud gives me a sense of anxiety because I know that it might be something that's fleeting or something that will pass, and that makes me a little bit nervous. But now I have this completely different sort of observer, watcher, not disassociation and disconnection, but just distance from those things. Mm-hmm. And see the passing of my emotions more as clouds. And I am a member of the Cloud Appreciation Society. This is true, and it does exist.
Say that again?
I don't know why I had to say that, but there's this society, I think it started in England, where there are cloud watchers. And there's an app, and you get a cool pin and a certificate. I joined.
Oh, my gosh.
So my dark years shifted me from this idea of I can do something to heal the world. I can do something to fix this or fix that. I was always a fixer and a mediator and a peacemaker and a runner away from conflict. Still working on that one, by the way. But I always wanted to sort of ease people's suffering because everyone seems to be suffering so much in an era where we're living like kings. And so I always wanted to fix. And after the dark years and after this sort of dissolving and reemerging, I am, Martha says, live it to give it. And I literally believe to the nth degree throughout myself that I can only help others by healing myself. I can only create joy and love by giving it to myself, by sort of expanding it within me to sort of beam out like the sunshine instead of bringing it in. And that, I guess, is my rhinoceros story. Like, that's how I must have gotten here, is that shift between appeasing the outer world to get something to just following my true nature and understanding what brings me joy. And then seeing firsthand that expands everyone else's joy just naturally. There's no effort. There's no trying. There's no fixing. It just happens. And that's kind of been really exciting in a really cool kind of way.
That's so awesome. I wish I could just, cue the choir and, amen, sister. I totally get it. And I know, I don't know. I mean, that just feels so good to hear, too, because it's something that I feel is so true, too. I don't know. I remember, when I was contemplating volunteering after graduation and whatnot, there's some quote, and I'm paraphrasing right now, but the idea was, this concept of if you're at an ocean and all of the starfish are washed up on sea, is it worth kind of taking one starfish and throwing it back into the sea one by one? What's the worth in that? And so I always contemplated that, and I never applied it to myself, what's the worth of saving myself first, And that totally rings true to me in the sense that it's starting to be more apparent to me how necessary that is. When I was, doing the work and different things, looking at myself inside, I'd question what do I want? What's my true purpose and whatnot? And granted, there are many ways of getting there, but ultimately it is that sense of peace, and not only for myself but everyone. And the only way that that is possible is helping yourself. Yeah. And so I love when you say that. It's amazing.
Well, and I love that we're doing this. I love that by, I don't know how else to say it, except I'm going to say what's coming to, not even my mind, but what feels like it's coming through my heart, is that we're calling in other healers, and we're comforting them. Because you and I feel like I am. I don't know how, I can't speak for you, but I really feel like I'm still in the beginning phase of this journey. I feel like I'm just now starting to get my sea legs, you know.
Mhm.
And it's so much fun. And I don't know, I guess that's all I want to say is that it feels like if someone, well, I'm not going to say if someone, you who's listening to this can see that it's not an accident that you found this recording and that you are interested in this book. You know, this is your tribe. We are your people, and you're a healer just like we are. We all just have our own kind of medicine and our own way of getting here. And every single way and thing is perfect because it's uniquely us. And I think recognizing that and seeing the beauty in our own fingerprints is just kind of like the funnest job in the world, don't you think?
Oh my goodness, yes. Well, that's like the zing. That's the electricity behind it all, too. You know, it's the feeling, it's that pull, and it's kind of that deeper knowing. You know, you can kind of talk yourself around it a little bit, like, well, I don't know for sure, and, well, maybe, you know, whatnot, but there's something else that won't go away that reminds you, no, you do know, and this is it.
Yeah. We're our own best teachers.